go ahead and dive into science today. Today we're going to be talking about what is the plant cycle. And you might be thinking, I don't know, what's a plant cycle? Well, today we're going to be recognizing how do plants make their own food. And then we're going to look at how do they use sun, air, and water to make their own food. So let's take a look. We're going to look at a book over in Epic called The Plant Life Cycle. So if you want to go ahead and join me, we are going to go ahead and take a look at this book called The Plant Life Cycle. Chapter 1, From Seed to Plant. It's a warm summer day. The wind carries away seeds from a dandelion. They float through the air like small parachutes. They settle on the ground. Some will grow roots in the dirt. Water and sunshine will help them grow. Then they will become new dandelion plants. This process is part of the plant life cycle. Plants are important to life on Earth. Some provide food for people. Vegetables and fruits are plants. People need these plants for a healthier diet. Animals can eat plants too. They wouldn't be able to grow without plants. Some people eat animals too. Plants have other uses too. Wood comes from trees. People burn wood for heat. Scientists use plants to make medicines. For example, aloe gel is used to treat sunburns. It comes from an aloe vera plant. Many kinds of clothing are made from cotton. Cotton is a plant. Plants also release a gas called oxygen into the atmosphere. People and animals need oxygen to breathe. Plants go through a life cycle. The cycle creates new plants. It allows the plants to survive and spread. This cycle makes life as we know it possible. Chapter 2, Pollen and Seeds. New plants are made in the first part of the plant life cycle. This part of the cycle includes 3 stages. The first stage is pollination. Next comes fertilization, and the last stage is dispersal. Pollination involves a material called pollen. This is a sticky and powdery material. It's produced on the male part of the flower, called a stamen. Pollen collects in tiny grains. Pollination happens when these grains move from one flower to another of some kind. But pollen can't travel by itself. It has to be carried. A vector brings pollen from one flower to another. A vector is anything that can move pollen. It may be blowing in the wind or flowing water. It may be a bird or an insect or even a bat. Animals that carry pollen are called a pollinator. Pollinators often feed on flowers, and while they are there, the pollen sticks to them. A pollinator carries pollen to the next flower it feeds on. We have parts of our flower. We have the stigma, the stamen, and the ovary. Fertilization happens after a pollen reaches a new flower. The pollen is collected in the stigma. The pollen travels down into the plant's ovary, and here the pollen grains can develop into seeds. In some plants, a fruit or a pod grows around the seed, and this helps to protect the seed. Dispersal happens after a seed forms. They're carried to a new place by a vector. For dandelions, the weed is the vector. It carries a floating seed away. Some plants use water as a vector. A flowing river can carry seeds downstream, and the seeds may end up at a distant riverbank. Animals can help move seeds. For example, some seeds stick to an animal's fur. This can carry the seeds to a new place. Growing and maturing. Once the plant seed has arrived in its new spot, the next step is germination. This process happens when the seed breaks open and roots grow from the seed and the ground. The roots absorb the water and nutrients. The growing plant needs sunlight and warm temperatures too. The plant shoot rises up and out of the ground. And after the shoot grows up some more, it's known as the stem. Leaves grow from the stem and it keeps getting larger. It grows until it's mature. A mature plant is ready to reproduce. It grows flowers, and these flowers produce pollen, and the whole cycle starts over again. Growing season. The length of a plant's life cycle depends on the type of plant. Some plants are called annuals. It takes them 1 year to complete a plant life cycle. Some plants are called biennials. It can take 2 years for them to complete one life cycle. Some plants can live longer and are either annuals or biennials, and they're called perennials. Perennials are an example of a periannual. They can live up to 100 years. And while a plant is alive, it performs a process called photosynthesis. In this process, the plant takes water, sunlight, and gas called carbon dioxide, and it uses it to make the food itself. This process also gives off oxygen. All plants eventually die. They might not get enough water or sun, and another plant nearby might use up important nutrients. A fire might sweep through an area, and when plants die, they decompose. They break apart and release nutrients back into the soil, and this can help other plants grow. But we also have pollution, and pollution can harm plants in many ways. Sometimes it can kill the plants, and in other cases, it can disrupt the plant life cycle. Some plants grow underwater. They're found in lakes or oceans. Pollution on the water's surface can block sunlight. Without sunlight, photosynthesis slows down. The plant can't produce food, so they can't grow. Most cars give off air pollution when they're driven. This pollution can harm plants. Scientists know that pollution can delay plants from creating flowers, and this can disrupt the plant life cycle. Pollution in the soil can harm the plant's roots. The roots are not able to take in as many nutrients. Without these nutrients, the plant growth will slow down. And plants are important to life on Earth. They help people create food, energy, and the air to breathe. A danger to them is a danger to all living things. Helping them complete their life cycle can help keep our planet healthy. So, the plant life cycle. So, the moon goes through 8 phases during the lunar month, and the sun can be seen over here. So, some fast facts. Plants provide food, energy, and air to breathe. Vectors can carry pollen from one plant to another. Through the fertilization process, the pollen becomes a new plant seed, and in seed dispersal, the seed is carried through to a new location. When a seed germinates, it creates roots and begins to grow. After the plants grow and mature, they're able to reproduce, and the cycle starts again. But pollution can disrupt that cycle. So let's take a look at what comes first in that plant cycle. So we know that first the flower has to produce the seeds once pollination has occurred. But then I want you to try to number which one of these comes next. Is it that leaves use water, sunlight, and carbon dioxide to produce the food that the plant needs to grow? Is it that seeds fall out of the plant to the soil? Is it that the stem transports the water through the plant? Is it that the roots of the plant absorb water and nutrients from the soil? If the proper conditions are met, the seed germinates and begins to grow. So what comes next? So after the flower produces the seed, then what happens? Hopefully we found number 2. And that is that the seeds fall out of the plant and into the soil. So what's third? So once that seed's in the soil, what's going to happen? hopefully remember that our seed has to germinate. Remember, we have to have water that activates the seed so it can begin to grow. After that seed begins to grow and it's been germinated and going, we have a key hint here that tells us absorbing water and nutrients from the soil. Well, we start to get a root system from our plants. So we know that the roots of the plant absorb the water. So then what's going to happen next? Or is the leaves going to use the water, sunlight, and carbon dioxide to produce food? Or is that the stem is going to transport that water through the plant? Hopefully you remember that plants are thirsty, just like people. So we need that stem to move the water to the plant for them to be able to get the nutrients that they need. So that means number 6 is that the leaves use water, sunlight, and carbon dioxide to produce those plants to get what they need. So let's kind of take a look at this. If we were to put them in order, number 1, the flowers produce the seeds once the pollination has occurred. Then the seeds fall out of the plant to the soil. If the proper conditions are met, then the seed germinates and begins to grow. The roots of the plant absorb the water and the nutrients from the soil. The stem transports the water through the plant, and then the leaves use the water, the sunlight, and carbon dioxide to produce the food that plants need to grow. So let's take a look at a word bank. Let's take a look at the process and how plants make their food. So we have some different keywords right here. We have photosynthesis, carbon dioxide, water, chlorophyll, and sunlight. So the process of plants making their own food, is that photosynthesis, carbon dioxide, water, chlorophyll, or sunlight? Give you a second. Hopefully remember that the process of plants making their own food is called photosynthesis. So leaves use what, which is a green substance, to capture energy? What is that green substance? Hopefully we remember that it's chlorophyll, and they're getting that energy from the sun. Because if they're the leaves, they're getting energy from that sunlight. So the leaves are going to take in what from the air through little openings in their edges? Are they taking in carbon dioxide or water? So remember, carbon dioxide is what plants breathe in. They breathe out oxygen. So they are going to be breathing in carbon dioxide, and then we know that water is moved through the roots and the stems and the leaves throughout the plant. So the root has to absorb the water to transport it through the plant and its system. When you go into Buzz, you're going to take a look at this video clip of us going through and checking out a plant system. Let's go ahead and take a look at some of these structures and functions.
All organisms have structures that function in certain ways to help them survive in the world.
So you're going to take a look at this over in Buzz. Then, when you are done with your lesson, you are going to go ahead and log on into Buzz. We're going to go into 3rd grade science. Go ahead, take a look. You'll see that we are doing today lesson 908 on the plant life cycle and structure. So we're going to go into module 9, going down below to 908, called Plants Eat Food. And we're going to take a look at some of the different food and what plants need. So as you're going through, you're going to continue with Kristen and her mom throughout their journey. You're going to explore and find out some of the different things that plants need, like carbon dioxide, water, sunlight. When you get to the end, 3rd grade, you're going to have a quiz. So good luck. You got this.